Welcome back, everyone. We're about to take off on another deep dive, and this time, we're exploring the world of U.S. civil aviation.
Buckle up.
Because we're going from those first dreams of flight to the complex system of regulations we have today.
It's going to be a fascinating journey.
Our main guide for this journey. Chapter 1 of the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge.
Yeah, it's packed with tons of information, perfect if you're brushing up on the basics.
Or maybe if you just have a meeting where you want to...
Sound like a total aviation guru.
Exactly. All right, let's start with the big question. Humans have always been fascinated with flying, right? I mean, who hasn't looked up at birds and thought, man, I wish I could do that?
Absolutely. And for centuries, early attempts at flight were all about trying to copy birds.
Like literally strapping on wings and flapping.
Pretty much. Leonardo da Vinci back in the 1500s was obsessed with this. His sketches of those ornithopter wings are incredible, but sadly not very practical.
I guess humans just weren't meant to flap our arms and take off like that.
Nope. The real breakthrough came with a shift in thinking, focusing on lighter-than-air flight.
You mean hot air balloons?
Exactly. In 1783, the Montgolfier brothers successfully flew a hot air balloon, and soon after, Professor Jacques Charles did it with a gas balloon.
Wow, so they finally solved the lift problem.
Yeah, but controlling where those things went was a whole different challenge. Just imagine floating around at the mercy of the wind.
It must have been both exhilarating and terrifying.
For sure. It's amazing to think that something as simple as a kite ended up being a key inspiration for controlled flight.
A kite? Really?
Yeah. Sir George Cayley, often called the father of aerial navigation, was a big advocate for using kite-shaped wings for heavier-than-air vehicles.
Interesting. So he was kind of laying the groundwork for the Wright brothers.
Absolutely. Their 1903 flight at Kitty Hawk was monumental, not just for building a plane, but for their scientific approach to it all.
So it wasn't just a matter of slapping some wings together and hoping for the best?
Not at all. They meticulously tested different designs and engines in their own wind tunnel. Imagine the dedication. That kind of rigor was unheard of back then, and it really set the stage for the rapid progress we saw in aviation afterwards.
Wow. Okay, so we go from the Wright brothers' first flight in 1903, and then just over a decade later, we get the world's first scheduled airline.
1914. The St. Petersburg-Tampa airboat line.
Can you believe that?
4 months of operation, over 1,200 passengers carried, and not a single injury. It makes you wonder what those early passengers felt like, taking that leap into the unknown.
Yeah, it must have been quite the experience.
Oh, and the winning bid for that first ticket, $400. Imagine that auction.
It's wild to think how far we've come. And speaking of milestones, World War I really showcased the potential of airplanes beyond just reconnaissance, right?
Totally. Suddenly, you've got fighters and bombers taken to the skies, and wartime development really pushes the technology forward at an incredible pace.
It's like necessity is the mother of invention.
For sure. And after the war, airmail emerges as this key peacetime application.
With the Army even using it for pilot training.
Exactly. And in 1921, the U.S. establishes this ambitious transcontinental mail route, 2,612 miles, stretching across the entire country with 13 stops along the way.
Talk about a logistical challenge.
Right. It highlights how quickly things were evolving.
And with all these pilots flying across vast distances in all kinds of conditions, it quickly became clear that some sort of regulation was needed.
Absolutely. It's like driving a car at first. There were no speed limits, no traffic lights, just chaos.
So you needed some rules of the road for the sky, basically.
Exactly. And that's where the 1926 Air Commerce Act comes, in a landmark piece of legislation recognizing the need for government oversight.
This was a game changer, right?
Oh, absolutely. It established safety standards, licensing requirements, and even led to the creation of the aeronautics branch, the forerunner to the FAA we know today.
So we've got the groundwork laid for a safer, more organized aviation system.
And then, in 1927, the very first pilot license is issued. Guess who it went to?
I have no idea.
William P. McCracken Jr., the head of the aeronautics branch himself. Talk about leading by example.
Wow, that's a fun fact. Okay, so how did air traffic control evolve during this time?
Well, in those early days, controllers were relying on chalkboards and mental calculations to keep track of flights.
Wow, that's hard to imagine now with our sophisticated radar systems and computerized tracking.
Right. It's incredible how much things have changed.
Speaking of change, the Airline Deregulation Act of 1978 was a huge turning point, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Championed by Senator Kennedy, it faced a ton of opposition from established airlines and unions.
They argued that it would lead to chaos and safety issues.
Exactly. But ultimately, it brought about the competitive landscape we see today, more affordable fares and a wider range of travel options for consumers.
So it's not just about cheaper flights, it's about accessibility and consumer choice.
Precisely. Deregulation really opened up the skies, making air travel more accessible to the public.
But with increased access, the need for oversight to maintain safety becomes even more important, right?
And that's where the FAA comes in, right?
Yes. Today, the FAA is the guardian of civil aviation safety, enforcing the Code of Federal Regulations, specifically Title 14, which covers everything from pilot certifications to aircraft maintenance.
It's like a massive rule book for everything aviation.
Right. And it's a complex organization with headquarters in D.C., regional offices across the country, and key facilities like the Mike Monroney Aeronautical Center, the MMAC in Oklahoma City.
MMAC focuses on training and education for aviation professionals.
And then we have the William J. Hughes Technical Center, the WJHTC in New Jersey, dedicated to research and development.
Pushing the boundaries of aviation technology and safety.
Exactly. And on a more local level, we have those Flight Standards District Offices, or FSDOs, handling certification and enforcement in the respective areas.
They're like the local face of the FAA.
It's really amazing how much goes into keeping our skies safe. And we can't forget the FAA safety team, the FACE team.
Right. Their proactive approach to safety, focusing on identifying hazards and working to reduce accidents before they happen.
A shift from just reacting to incidents to actively preventing them.
Crucial. They work with everyone, pilots, mechanics, airports, to make flying safer for all of us.
So from those early dreams of mimicking birds to the highly regulated world of modern aviation, we've come a long way. It's incredible how much has changed, but the core principles of safety and innovation remain constant.
Absolutely. And it's this dedication to continuous improvement that makes U.S. civil aviation a global leader.
Now let's dive into the specifics of pilot certifications and flight training. That's where things get really interesting.
Buckle up.
Okay, so let's break down these pilot certifications because it can seem like a bit of a maze, right?
It's all about making sure pilots have the right skills for the type of flying they want to do, right? Matching skills to the right aircraft.
And speaking of aircraft, the FAA divides them into categories.
Airplanes, gliders, rotorcraft, and even lighter than air, like those balloons and airships, each requiring specific training.
Right, it's like having different licenses for different vehicles. You wouldn't expect someone with a car license to automatically be able to handle a motorcycle.
Exactly. Great analogy. And then within each category, there are levels of pilot certificates.
Kind of like getting your driver's license and then a commercial driver's license.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. And each certificate has its own set of privileges.
What you're allowed to do.
Right, and limitations, what you can't do.
It's all about safety.
Absolutely. Safety is paramount, making sure pilots have the right skills for the type of flying they're doing.
So let's start with the Sport Pilot Certificate. This is the newest and most accessible option, perfect for recreational flying, right?
Yeah, like if you're picturing yourself flying a light sport aircraft, maybe taking a friend sightseeing on a sunny day, this is a great way to start.
But there are restrictions, right?
Right, like airspace, weather conditions, and towing. It's about keeping things simple and safe.
So it's kind of like having a learner's permit for the sky.
I like that. A learner's permit for the sky. What about the recreational pilot certificate? That's a step up, right?
Yeah, how does that differ?
Well, you can fly a bit further, carry more passengers, but nighttime flying and operations in complex airspace are still off limits.
Okay, and still no flying for hire.
Right, just like with the Sport Pilot Certificate.
So you get a bit more freedom to explore without the full commitment of that private pilot license.
Which, by the way, is what most people think of when they imagine themselves as a pilot.
The private pilot certificate, right?
Yeah. It gives you a lot of flexibility for personal use, taking friends and family on trips, flying for personal business, even towing gliders.
Towing gliders, that sounds awesome.
Right. Lots of possibilities.
But you still can't be paid to fly.
Correct. However, you can share expenses with passengers.
Oh, that's helpful.
Yeah. And you're limited to flying under visual flight rules, meaning clear weather conditions.
No flying through clouds or fog.
Nope. Safety first.
And then, for those who are dreaming of a career in flying, that's where the commercial pilot certificate comes in, right?
Exactly. This is your ticket to getting paid for those skills, opens doors to becoming a flight instructor, aerial photography, maybe even crop dusting.
So many possibilities. I bet the training is pretty intense, though.
Oh yeah, you'll need more flight hours, demonstrate a higher level of skill and knowledge.
And of course, if you're aiming for the top tier, that Airline Transport Pilot Certificate, or ATP, is a whole other level.
That's the elite level for those who want to captain those massive jets we see crossing continents.
Thousands of flight hours, right?
Yep. Plus a deep understanding of complex aircraft systems and that ability to make split-second decisions under pressure.
Wow, so it really is about choosing the certificate that aligns with your goals.
Whether you're dreaming of leisurely weekend flights or aiming for that career in the cockpit, there's a path for you.
But no matter what path you choose, the first step is finding a good flight school.
And there are so many options.
Right. There are those FAA-approved training centers, the Part 142 schools.
Often using those sophisticated simulators catering to professional pilot training.
And then we have those Part 141 schools known for their structured programs.
Well-defined syllabi and emphasis on standardization.
But we shouldn't forget about those Part 61 schools, right?
Absolutely not. They offer more flexibility, which can be perfect for those with busy lives or, specific learning needs.
So it's not about one being better than the other, but about finding the right fit for you.
Exactly. The key is a reputable program, regardless of its designation.
Don't be afraid to shop around, right?
Yeah. Visit the schools, talk to students and instructors, get a feel for the environment.
And beyond the school itself, the choice of your certified flight instructor, or CFI, is super important.
That's where the human element really comes in.
Right. Your CFI is more than just an instructor.
It's a mentor, a guide, your safety advocate.
They'll teach you the skills, instill good judgment, and prepare you for those real-world flying situations.
It's a relationship built on trust and respect.
You need someone you can communicate with effectively, who understands your learning style.
Someone who will push you to be your best while always prioritizing safety.
And these days, scenario-based training is a big part of flight instruction, right?
Oh yeah, your CFI will present you with those challenging situations, help you develop those critical thinking skills.
So it's not just about memorizing procedures.
It's about being prepared for the unexpected.
Right, so your CFI is with you every step of the way, from those first tentative flights to eventually endorsing you for your solo flight.
That first solo flight is such a rite of passage, a moment of incredible freedom and responsibility.
I can only imagine.
It's a testament to your hard work and your CFI's belief in your abilities.
Then, when you're ready, comes the practical test, where you demonstrate your skills to a designated pilot examiner, or DPE.
The DPE is a highly experienced pilot, appointed by the FAA to conduct these exams and make recommendations for certification.
They're looking for pilots who are not only skilled, but safe and responsible.
Exactly. It's a pretty big deal.
And both the CFI and the DPE play such a crucial role in upholding those high standards that we see in U.S. civil aviation.
They're the gatekeepers, making sure everyone who earns their wings is ready to fly safely and responsibly, a big responsibility.
So let's shift gears a bit and talk about the actual journey of becoming a pilot. Where does someone even begin?
Well, it all starts with deciding what type of aircraft do you want to fly. Airplanes, gliders, helicopters, gyroplanes, you name it.
So many choices.
Right. And of course, there's the medical certificate to make sure you're fit to fly.
And then the real adventure begins with that student pilot certificate.
Your ticket to start training, to start logging those precious flight hours with your CFI.
It sounds like an incredible experience.
Oh, it is. You'll be learning the fundamentals of flight from pre-flight inspections to basic maneuvers.
Takeoffs, landings, turns, climbs, descents.
Exactly. Your CFI will break it all down, help you build that confidence and competence.
It's all leading up to those two crucial tests, the knowledge test and the practical test.
Right. The knowledge test, sometimes called the written exam, is computer-based, covers a wide range of aviation knowledge.
Aerodynamics, weather, navigation, regulations. It's testing your understanding of the theory.
And then the practical test is where you put it all together, show the DPE what you've learned.
Your chance to shine.
The DPE will assess your ability to handle different maneuvers, emergency procedures, that overall airmanship.
They're looking for a pilot who is skilled, safe, and responsible.
Exactly. Passing those tests is a huge milestone, a real validation of all your hard work.
But even after you earn those wings, the learning never really ends, does it?
That's the beauty of aviation. It's a field of continuous growth and discovery.
As technology evolves, regulations change, and as you gain experience, there's always something new to learn and explore.
It's not just about getting that certificate, it's about embracing a lifelong journey of learning and improvement.
Absolutely. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, from those early dreams of flight to the complexities of modern aviation.
the history, the regulations, those pathways to becoming a pilot.
And we've seen that commitment to safety that is woven into every aspect of U.S. civil aviation.
It's all driven by passion, dedication, and that thirst for adventure.
The next time you see a plane soaring overhead, take a moment to appreciate everything that went into making that flight possible.
Centuries of innovation, the training, that unwavering commitment to safety.
And who knows? Maybe this deep dive has sparked something in you.
Maybe you'll visit that local airport, take a discovery flight, even start your own journey to becoming a pilot.
The sky's the limit. Keep those dreams soaring high, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
Happy landings!
All right, so we've talked about choosing a flight school and finding that perfect instructor, but what does actual flight training look like? What's involved?
Well, it can vary a bit depending on the certificate you're going for and the type of aircraft you want to fly. But generally, it's a blend of ground school and flight training.
So you're hitting the books and then hitting the skies.
Exactly. You'll be learning the theory behind it, all things like aerodynamics, weather, navigation, and of course, all those regulations.
It's like learning a whole new language, right?
It is. And a new sport at the same time. You need both the head knowledge and those hands-on skills.
Okay, so talk me through this.
Yeah.
What happens during a typical flight lesson? What's it like?
Well, you'll start with basic maneuvers like takeoffs and landings, turns, climbs, descents. Your CFI will break each maneuver down into steps.
So it's not overwhelming.
Right. They'll explain the why behind the how, they'll demonstrate, guide you verbally, and then let you take the controls.
And I'm guessing they're there to offer feedback and make sure you don't, do anything crazy.
Of course. Safety first. It's all about building confidence and competence one step at a time.
And then, as you progress, you eventually get to experience that incredible feeling of solo flight.
That first solo flight is a rite of passage for every pilot, a moment where you truly take ownership of your skills and feel that freedom of flight.
I bet that's both exhilarating and a little nerve-wracking.
Oh, definitely a mix of emotions, but your CFI will have prepared you thoroughly and they'll be watching from the ground.
Ready to talk you down if needed.
Exactly. And once you've got those basics down, it's time to tackle those crucial tests we talked about, the knowledge test and the practical test.
Those are the final hurdles, right?
Yeah.
The proof that you've got what it takes to be a safe and responsible pilot.
Exactly. Passing both of those tests is a major accomplishment, a validation of all that hard work.
And then from there, the possibilities are pretty much endless.
Right. You might decide to pursue additional ratings, like an instrument rating for flying in more challenging weather conditions.
Or multi-engine rating to fly those bigger planes.
Exactly. Or maybe you discover a passion for aerobatics. There are so many different paths you can take.
The beauty of aviation is that it really is a lifelong journey of learning.
There's always something new to explore, a new skill to master, new horizons to discover.
Absolutely. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today, literally.
We've explored the history of U.S. civil aviation, the regulations, the pathways to becoming a pilot.
We've talked about the importance of safety, the dedication of those involved.
And hopefully we've given you a glimpse into the passion and adventure that make this field so incredible.
So next time you see a plane flying overhead, take a moment to think about everything that went into making that flight possible.
All those years of innovation, the rigorous training, the unwavering commitment to safety.
And who knows, maybe this deep dive has inspired you to learn more, to experience the magic of flight for yourself.
Maybe you'll visit a local airport, take a discovery flight, or even embark on your own journey to becoming a pilot.
The sky's the limit. Keep those dreams soaring high, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
Happy landings, everyone.